My girlfriend said, "I'm leaving you. Mark needs me more. He's going through a divorce." Her high school ex. I said, "I hope he finds peace." 2 months later, Mark's wife called me. "Did you know they've been planning this for a year?" When she sent me the text messages between them, I'm 34, male, the kind of guy who fixes things for a living, commercial HVAC, nothing glamorous, coaches youth soccer on weekends, and for 4 years thought I had something real with my girlfriend. Not Instagram-worthy, just real. She'd moved in 2 years in, and we had a whole routine going. Coffee before work, dinner most nights, the occasional argument about calling the landlord. Normal life. Then one Tuesday, she came home and sat across from me instead of next to me, and I remember noticing that. Small thing. But I noticed it. She told me her high school ex had reached out. His marriage was falling apart. He was in a dark place. They'd been texting a little, and she wanted to be there for him. I'm not a jealous person. I trust people until I have a reason not to. So I said, "Sure, just be honest with me." She looked almost relieved when I said that, and I filed that away without knowing what to do with it. 3 weeks later, she wanted to fly out and see him in person. He was alone in an apartment, not eating, struggling. She said she was the only person he trusted. Something felt off, but I couldn't point to anything concrete. So when she asked me to use my travel miles to book her flight, I did. I drove her to the airport. She kissed me at the curb, and I watched the doors close behind her. She was gone 5 days. Texted normally. Sent a photo of a restaurant she said she went to alone. Came home Sunday seeming lighter than she had in months. 2 days later, she sat across from me again. "I'm leaving you. He needs me more. I think I still have feelings for him." I sat there for a second while the refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. "You're leaving me for your high school ex whose marriage just ended. I didn't plan this." "Okay," I said. One word. Not because I wasn't hurting, because I was. But there was nothing to negotiate. She'd already decided. She just needed me to receive it. She was out within the week. Hugged me at the door on her way out and said she hoped I'd find someone who deserved me. I held the door open and said the only thing that came to mind. I hope he finds peace. I meant it. I had no idea yet what I was actually saying. The weeks after were what they were. I worked, I coached, I called my brother a few times. I didn't text her, didn't post anything, didn't badmouth her to anyone. I packed the last of her forgotten stuff into a box and left it on the porch when she sent someone to pick it up. About 6 weeks in, I started feeling level again. Not happy, just level. Like the ground had stopped moving. Then, a Saturday morning. Unknown number, local area code. I almost didn't pick up. Are you her boyfriend? A woman's voice. Careful. Measuring each word. Her ex-boyfriend, I said. Who is this? I'm his wife. I think we need to talk. She told me she'd found messages. Not from 3 weeks ago, not from when the marriage was already failing. From 14 months ago. Before his wife knew anything was wrong. Before he'd told anyone he was unhappy. While my girlfriend was still living in my apartment, drinking my coffee, asking me to trust her. She told him in writing that you were the obstacle, she said. That once he left me, she would leave you. They were waiting for the right moment. The refrigerator hummed again. Same sound as the night she left. The world keeps making its ordinary sounds while it hands you something that rearranges everything.
Send them, I said.
47 screenshots came through over the next hour. I sat at my kitchen table and read every single one. 11 months before she left me. Just be patient. I'll handle my side when you handle yours. 8 months before. He trusts me completely. That's actually the hard part. 1 week before she told me it was over, he literally booked my flight with his own miles. I feel terrible, but also we're so close. She felt terrible.
She did it anyway.
For a year. I put my phone face down and sat with that for a while. Then I picked it back up and called his wife. I read them all, I said. She told me she was filing for divorce and that she was in North Carolina, which is a fault-based state where adultery can affect alimony and asset division if you can prove it predated the separation. She said the dated messages and the documented timeline of the affair were significant. She asked if I'd be willing to provide a written statement covering what I remembered, dates, conversations, the flight, what my girlfriend told me his situation was. I told her yes, and that night I wrote 12 pages while everything was still fresh. That's when the entitlement showed up. Because apparently when the legal situation got real and my ex-girlfriend realized the divorce proceedings were going to be messy, they decided the best move was to come after me. She called me for the first time since leaving. 3 months of silence, and then out of nowhere. His wife is trying to destroy him financially. I need you to tell her attorney that our relationship was already falling apart before I went to visit him. That it was basically over. So, you want me to lie for you? I want you to help clarify the timeline. The timeline where you were calling me the obstacle while telling me to trust you. I know how that looks, she said. But you're a good person. You don't want to hurt people. I don't want to lie under oath. There's a difference. Nobody's going under oath. If his wife's attorney asks me to give a statement, I will. And I'll tell the truth. She hung up. 3 days later, he called me. I didn't know he had my number. He must have gotten it from her phone at some point, which told me a lot about how little they'd respected my privacy throughout all of this. His voice was smooth.
Practiced.
The voice of someone who had talked his way out of situations before. My wife is going to take everything, he said. The house, my retirement, everything. I have kids. Whatever she told you, she's angry and she's exaggerating. She sent me 47 screenshots. I said. Dated. A pause. Text messages can be misread. Tone doesn't come across. He trusts me completely. That's actually the hard part. What's the misread there? Longer pause. What do you want? His tone shifted. The smoothness dropped, and something colder came through. Money? An apology? What fixes this for you? Nothing fixes it. That's not how this works. Then what are you going to do? Tell the truth, I said. That's all. He tried twice more over the next 2 weeks. First through a mutual friend of my ex-girlfriend's who called me out of nowhere to check in, and then casually mentioned that staying out of someone else's divorce would be the mature thing. I told her I'd think about it. Then he had an attorney send me a letter. Not a subpoena. Just a strongly worded letter suggesting that my involvement in his wife's divorce proceedings could expose me to legal complications. I took that letter to a family law attorney the next day. She read it in about 90 seconds. This is a scare tactic, she told me. You haven't testified. You haven't been deposed. You received documentation unsolicited. There is zero legal exposure here. If they keep contacting you like this, that's what creates a problem for them. She helped me draft a cease and desist that went to his attorney within 48 hours. The calls stopped immediately. His wife's divorce moved through the North Carolina courts over the following months. The separation had started in the fall, and under North Carolina law you have to be separated for at least 1 year before an absolute divorce can be finalized, but fault-based claims like adultery can be raised during that period, and they affect post-separation support and alimony. Her attorney built the case around the dated text messages, the documented timeline showing the affair started well before the separation, and financial records showing he'd been diverting marital funds, credit card charges, transfers, hotel receipts from a trip he told his wife was a work conference. I gave a written statement. I was not deposed. The documentation was strong enough that my statement was supplementary. His attorney pushed back hard, argued the messages were out of context, that his wife had fabricated a narrative, that my statement was personal grievance dressed up as evidence. The judge wasn't moved. He was ordered to pay post-separation support while the case was pending. When the final settlement came, his wife received a significant share of the marital assets, including equity in the house. Alimony was awarded for 4 years, based on the length of the marriage and the documented fault grounds. He lost the house. He lost a chunk of his retirement. He moved into an apartment, not unlike the one my ex-girlfriend had flown out to comfort him in. Except now it wasn't a romantic crisis she could sweep in and rescue him from. It was the actual consequences of what he'd done. And here's the thing about the revenge that nobody tells you. The best kind doesn't feel like revenge while you're doing it. It just feels like telling the truth. I didn't go out of my way to destroy him. I answered questions honestly. I gave a statement I already had the documentation to support. I hired an attorney when they tried to intimidate me. That's it. But the effect was the same as if I'd engineered every detail because they had handed me everything. The screenshots, the dated messages, the paper trail they built while treating me like a passive obstacle they could manage. They spent a year planning around me, and they handed me the one thing that undid all of it. About 8 months after she left, a mutual friend reached out. She's not with him anymore. They broke up 2 months ago. I didn't say anything. Once the divorce got ugly and the money situation changed, things shifted between them. She wanted him to move closer to her. He didn't want to leave his kids' school district. They started fighting. She said it wasn't what she expected. Another pause. She's been telling people he misled her, that she gave up her relationship with you for someone who turned out to be different than she thought. A year of planning. 14 months of lies. Her flying out on my miles. The coordinated exit, the pressure campaign, the attorney letter, the cease and desist. All of it, for a relationship that lasted less than 8 months before reality showed up and ruined the fantasy they'd been building while I was still making her coffee every morning. I'm sorry, my friend said. I thought you should know. I appreciate it, I said. I'm good. And I actually was. Because here's what had happened on my end during those 8 months. After the cease and desist, after the statement, after all of it settled, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I stopped fixing other people's problems and put the energy somewhere else. I took a project lead role at work. Significant raise. I trained for a half marathon, mostly because I needed somewhere to put the anger early on, and running turned out to work better than I expected. I rebuilt friendships I'd let go quiet. I didn't date for a while. I wasn't ready. But I also wasn't wrecked the way I might have been if I'd found out differently. If I'd slowly suspected and never confirmed. If I'd spent years wondering what I'd missed. The text messages took that possibility off the table. I hadn't missed anything. There was nothing to miss. They had decided what they wanted was worth more than who they hurt, and they had planned it carefully, and they had been wrong about every assumption they made about me. She reached out once, about 7 months after the breakup. Short text, no preamble. I made a mistake. I know that now. I looked at it for a while, thought about the 12 pages of notes, the 47 screenshots, the attorney letter. He trusts me completely. That's actually the hard part. I typed back one line. I hope you find peace. Same words I'd said at the door when she left. Full circle.
She didn't respond.
His wife and I stayed in loose touch for a bit. Not really as friends, more like two people who shared a strange chapter and occasionally checked in. She closed on a smaller house close enough to keep her kids in the same school. Went back to working full-time. She told me she felt like she'd finally landed after years of turbulence she hadn't fully recognized as turbulence. The last time we talked, she said something I still think about. You know what I keep coming back to? They called you the obstacle. But you were the only one in the whole situation who acted with any dignity. I didn't know what to say to that. I just thanked her. I'm 35 now. I ran that half marathon in just over 2 hours. Got the project lead role. The youth soccer team I coach made it to their regional tournament, and 12 9-year-olds have absolutely no idea their coach spent several months navigating a betrayal, a cease and desist, and a North Carolina divorce proceeding. They just know I show up Saturday with orange slices and enough patience to explain why you don't kick the ball as hard as you can every single time. Patience, it turns out, is not the same as passivity. It never was. The mistake people make about quiet men is assuming that quiet means they can be managed. If you read this whole thing and your blood pressure moved at all, you got good instincts. Go ahead and subscribe, because anyone who recognized the signs in this story deserves to know they're not alone.